What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pulp Diction podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Gibson. This is probably going to be a really short episode, really spur of the moment. I'll just get to it. Welcome back to the Pulp Diction podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Gibson. Did I say that already? I don't know. Whatever. A few minutes ago, I just finished watching this show, Hysteria. Hysteria! With an exclamation point at the end. It's on Peacock. It's excellent. Let me just say that I am so excited about this show, and I just want to talk about it. I want to talk about it, and I don't have anyone to talk to about it, so I'm using my this parasocial thing. It goes both ways. All right. Welcome to Pulp Diction, the podcast where I talk about movies with my friends for an academic obligation. So, basically what it is, it's Hysteria. It's this kind of horror show set in the 80s, almost Stranger Things-esque, right? Because it centers around this group of kids, they're trying to start a metal band, rock band, metal band, metal band, called Death Crunch. And they're trying to capitalize on the satanic panic of the 80s, so you got that like historical context going for it. So they capitalized on the satanic panic by starting to brand themselves as like a band of Satan worshippers and a cult, basically. And things just keep spiraling. The series begins with like the most popular kid in town getting murdered. It's this small town, and it's really cool. Just all sorts of hijinks ensue, and it's crazy, and it's awesome, and it's pretty cool. 8 episodes, each about 50 minutes, hour long, and it's all pretty good. The main character's name is Dylan. I did not know that going into the show. I was pleasantly surprised. Always nice to see a Dylan. Always not so nice when Dylan is an idiot, when Dylan is so stupid and causes pretty much every problem in the show. Not every problem in the show, that's not true. A lot of the problems in the show could have been avoided if he wasn't just a horny idiot. Now, let me say, I got into this show. I've seen nothing about this show. No one is talking about this show. And the only reason I know about it was because I saw an article that was about an interview with Bruce Campbell. The headline of the article wasn't even about Hysteria. It was about how Bruce Campbell said that Evil Dead fans have put him in a box in terms of like what he can and can't do in acting. And I found out like from some side note of the article, he's in this brand new TV show that just came out. And yes, so Bruce Campbell is one of my favorite actors of all time, one of my favorite people of all time. He's so funny and charming and cool. And I've loved him ever since watching the Evil Dead movies. I've had a bit of a man crush on the man. I'm not ashamed to admit it. A fully heterosexual man crush, I will say. And it was kind of funny seeing him in this show because it's sort of a departure from most of the roles I have seen him in, because he's not like an idiot. He's not kind of this goofy, charming, stupid goofball that he tends to play in a lot of these movies. He's actually like the responsible voice of reason. He's the small town chief of police, and he's like everything a small town cop should be. He's great. He's probably the best he's my favorite character in the show. He might not be the best character in the show or the most interesting character in the show, but he's probably the best person. And Bruce Campbell is just a highlight. Every scene he's in, I love him so much. And maybe that's because I already love Bruce Campbell, but he just does an excellent job. It's so nice to see him, especially in a role that's so different from what I've seen him in the past, because Ash Williams is one of the greatest. You know what? Ashley J. Williams is the greatest character in horror movie history. I'll just say it. Screw you. I don't care. Evil Dead, awesome. Evil Dead 2, awesome. Army of Darkness, awesome. Ash versus Evil Dead, masterpiece. That ended too soon because nobody watches Stars. Nobody had Stars. I had Stars, but I wasn't old enough to watch that show when it was airing. I watched it years after the fact, and it ends on such a cliffhanger, and I'm so sad. but it's so worth watching anyway. If you love Evil Dead, and even if you don't, give it a try, please. But Bruce Campbell is it's really nice to see him in anything he's in. And the whole cast of this show is kind of, not the whole cast, some of the kid acting is a little iffy at times, I will say. Dylan isn't the greatest. He does all right. I respect it. But the mom from Modern Family's in it. She does a really good job, especially in the latter half of the season. Nolan North is in it. That surprised the crap out of me. Like, I'm sitting there, I see the dad, and I'm like, that's Nathan Drake and a million other video game characters, which is insane. I need to stop touching my hair. It's a bad habit. Nolan North is in it. Jeffrey Combs makes an appearance in one episode. The Reanimator himself, The Question. My goodness. And speaking of my favorite, he was an awesome cameo, Jeffrey Combs. But my favorite cameo in the show was so brief and so unexpected. I gasped. It was. Oh, I don't want to spoil it, but I'm going to spoil it. Screw it. It was James A. Janice from The Kill Count. The goat of horror YouTube. James A. Janice. Oh my gosh, I was so happy to see him. It was so funny and so unexpected. I love him so much. And for most people, it was just like it's another one of the townsfolk. But it was James A. Janice. And that is very special to me. I wasn't initially taking notes on this show, but after a certain point, I figured it was worth taking notes on because I was probably going to do a podcast on it because I wanted to talk about it. And let's see, oh my gosh, the music in the show. It has an excellent, just 80s soundtrack, all these rock metal songs. It's great. The intro of the, side note, the intro of the title sequence of the show is awesome. I love the guitar and it's neat. It's pretty neat. I love not just the music, but the way the music's used. My favorite one in the whole season was Poison by Alice Cooper. Love that song so much. And they play it when Dylan and Judith are getting kind of freaky, right? And it's so good because like it's a song about this forbidden love, right? How it's a love that's bad for him, but he wants to do it anyway, which is exactly what Dylan's doing at that moment. It's so cool. Oh my gosh. Poison, but Dylan, bro, he's such an idiot. He's so stupid. He starts the cult because he wants to get in Judith's pants. So many times I was staring at the TV. I'm like, why is Dylan so dumb? Dylan, like on behalf of, like as a fellow Dylan, I felt embarrassed for all Dylans out there. You know, he did us dirty. Timothy Chalamet will bring it back, hopefully, with a complete unknown later this year. Judith, I like that her name's Judith. I feel like that was probably a reference to Judith Myers from Michael Myers' dead sister that he kills in the beginning of Halloween. Maybe it wasn't, but I feel like it was. And you know, it feels very much like a lot of homages to horror and whatnot, like with Jeffrey Combs, right? And just the show is very nice to look at, I should say. Like, the cinematography is so much better than it has any right to be. The colors are very pretty, very just striking visuals, you know? Just these reds and blues. Like every time the devil's present, you get this overpowering red light just over everything. It's oh my goodness gracious. It's so cool. I will say, a part of me does wonder if the show would have been better if there actually wasn't any supernatural whatever going on after all. If it was revealed that, like, the devil had absolutely no presence in this town whatsoever. A part of me does wonder if it was revealed, like, there's nothing supernatural going on after all. If this is all just the people the people believing something's happening, so they make a whole thing out of it, even though nothing's happening, which is kind of what episode 5 was, which I'll get into later, because that's probably the best episode in the season. I believe it was yes, Mother. And that was really, but at the same time, I did enjoy the supernatural, like, religious aspects. As I said this on the As Above, So Below episode, I am a sucker for, like, religious horror, and this is some pretty good stuff. It's not actually scary. There are some pretty tense scenes, even spooky scenes, kind of freaky scenes, and it's pretty exciting, very cool. I was into it. Like, there were some scenes that I was pretty on the edge of my seat, pretty tense. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this show a lot. It's just a blast to get through, and I think it only gets better and better as it goes on. Though I will, again, episode 5 was probably the best in the season. And hopefully it gets a season 2. Because, again, nobody is talking about this show. They need to talk about this show. They need to market this show. Nobody's marketing this show. Nobody's talking about this show. They need to talk about this show. But yes, the colors are excellent. The music is excellent. The shot compositions are so cool. There's this one, I believe it's in episode 5, with the Reverend. He's sitting on the front of his desk, and he's framed so that these deer antlers are right behind him. They almost look like they're coming out of him. Almost this demonic-like imagery, right? Sort of hinting at its more sinister nature, despite these promises he's making to the parents, one of which is Jeffrey Combs, of course. And so that's really cool. And just all sorts of imagery like that, right? All this Satanism stuff. And the parallels in episode 5 are really cool. And every episode has these parallels in the different storylines going on that are always just a really, really interesting to see. Like, it's one of those shows that's like, I described Fantastic Mr. Fox as this. It's lovely to watch. I wouldn't say this is lovely to watch. It's more exciting to watch. It's cool to watch. It's cool. It's cool to watch. But it's also fascinating to think about, right? Because of the themes, this, like, paranoia, the town ganging up on people, just fear, that sort of deal, religious trauma. Religious trauma. Because episode 5, ooh boy, that's a doozy. You have these parallel storylines with the mom, Tracy, and the daughter, how they both got both of their experiences with the Reverend and their attempts at reconditioning, right? So you have all that going on, and how it works for Tracy. It doesn't work so good for Faith. That's her name. I kept listing her as daughter in the notes because I couldn't remember her name for the life of me. I'm really bad with that. That's my bad. But yeah, like, episode 5 was really interesting because it turned Tracy from, like, well, a lot, not, it wasn't specifically that, but I think that was what cemented Tracy as probably the most interesting character in the show. Like I said, Bruce Campbell is my favorite character in the show, but Tracy Whitehead is probably the most interesting character in the show. Because look at her backstory, look at her now story, right? Because she's introduced, she's presented as the same, like, 80s bitch mother we've seen so many times in, like, Detroit Rock City. I don't want to say Almost Famous. No, not Almost Famous. Detroit Rock City is the big one because that's, like, one of the more recent ones I've watched. Great movie, great coming of age movie. But yeah, it's like the archetype of the awful, hateable, restrictive, suppressive mother that we have in so many of these 80s, like, coming of age stories. But they kind of what do they do? What's the word? The Rian Johnson thing. Subvert your expectations. There it is. They subvert your expectations by making her actually interesting. They give her a story. They give her a motivation. She's so fascinating to watch in every scene. Eventually. At first, it's kind of like, but she's, like, really, she's very interesting and very intriguing. Because, like, a part of her knows she's not really doing the right thing, but she wholeheartedly believes she's doing the right thing. Actually, she thinks the Lord is fully on her side. She doesn't understand that she used to be like this hippie, sex crazed, drug crazed hippie person, who was seeing the devil and whatnot. So, but now she's like this ultra conservative religious mother. So she's like, she doesn't understand, and so she's trying to make faith like the ultra conservative too, because she doesn't understand that there don't have to be there doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. You don't have to be it's not two sides of a coin, it's a whole spectrum, right? Oh, and she doesn't get that. She doesn't understand that there are middle grounds, and she doesn't even trust her daughter. Her daughter was still a virgin, but she believed she was as bad as she was at that age, because she's just continuing to project herself onto faith, and it's very tragic, but very cool, very intriguing. Goodness gracious, I need to speak. But the parallels in that episode, especially towards the end, like as the cuts get more and more rapid and more just crazy, with them both in the Reverend's room. Oh my gosh, and them finally revealing like how Ryan died. Dude, that was actually crazy. Like it was well, I don't know if I'll keep that in. I want to keep some of the big details unturned. But yeah, the parallels in that episode are really cool. I thought the parallels in episode 6, the following one, are really cool, because it's kind of the truth coming out in every storyline in the show. Because Dylan gets caught as like the cult leader person, and his relationship with Judith. All the cult members are exposed. And Tracy and Faith kind of have their truths come out to each other. And it's just, everything's getting exposed in this episode, and it was so cool to watch that unfurl. I thought it was really, really, really interesting. Judith says, like, she got into Satanism because she wanted to be seen. Dylan says he wanted to be seen like Judith, even though Judith didn't feel seen either. Which is fascinating, because you have like this ultra popular girl, she didn't feel seen. This ultra unpopular dude, he didn't feel seen, but he thought she was seen. But neither one of them did feel seen, because it's that's just how being a teenager is. You don't feel like anyone understands you. You don't whatever. But that's a fascinating point. Like how can one feel seen in such a world? I don't know. Maybe you need good friends. Maybe you really do need Jesus. I liked, the haircut scene. I think that was episode 6 with Dylan mom. I really feel bad for not remembering the actress's name. It's fine. With the mom cutting Judith's mom's hair, and just the slowly building tension, because you see the scissors, the snip, they set it up so well, and she keeps having these flashes to the red room, and you know it's coming. Like, you're getting pretty tense. It's like, you know something's about to happen, but when's it gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Is it gonna happen? And then it happens, and she cuts the ear, and you're like, oh shoot! And it's really cool. And I keep saying cool, and I need to find better words, but I don't care right now. I'm excited to talk. Oh, so it's one of those later episodes where Judith and Cliff make Dylan go into that coffin and bury him alive for this like rebirth ritual, right? And they're saying that he's going to be buried, and then he's going to come out as his true self. And they were right. He was buried, and he did. The old Dylan did die, and he did come out as his true self. It died when the flashlight went out, right? Because the old Dylan was stupid Dylan. It was horny Dylan. It was the Dylan that wanted to get into, that started a cult when people were terrified of Satanists because of Judith. Because he wanted a girl. And no girl is worth that. None. Probably. I don't know. He's such an idiot, but I at the same time, I'm like, Well, no. A part of me is like, I'm so glad I've never been that down bad, you know? Like, I've been pretty down bad in ways that I would rather not discuss on here. But I've not been bad as that, Dylan. So, thank you, God. You know what? I am really glad. As I said, I'm very religious, but not like, and you know what I mean. And I'm really glad. I feel like I didn't feel like the show demonized religion itself at all, and it would have been very easy for it to do so, to fall into that trap of just being critical of religion as a whole, like some comedians like to do, like Ricky Gervais. As much as I love Ricky Gervais, he's very funny. Just criticizing religion all the time and whatever. No, it's actually criticizing these hypocrites who use religion, and just these fearmongers and these idiots who fall for false prophets. And you can tell, like, I think the big thing that shows the show isn't about criticizing religion as a whole, is the confrontation between the priest before he leaves and Tracy, because the priest just, he eats her alive, and it's so satisfying to watch. He just dresses her the crap down, and it's great. It's really great to see. It's so satisfying. And but it also showed me, like, okay, the show people, they know that, like, religion itself isn't the problem. They know Jesus, God, they're not the issue. It's a lot of his followers, unfortunately. And it was really cool to see that, because they could have very easily gone a different way. Oh my gosh, I interrupted myself in the middle of talking about the coffin thing, didn't I? Yeah, he comes out of that coffin. He's not the stupid Dylan anymore. He does come out as his true self. Cliff and Judith were right. He comes out as good Dylan, the Dylan that doesn't leave his friends behind, the Dylan that cares for his friends, the Dylan that wants to make things right, the Dylan that loves his mom and his dad and will do whatever to help them out, the Dylan that goes back into stays in the burning church to help his mom. You know, it's really nice. It's really cool to see that. So yeah, Cliff and Judith were right, just not in the way they intended, which is kind of a theme in this show, is people being right and getting what they wanted. It's almost like a monkey paw thing, right? Like, they get what they asked for, just not necessarily in the way they meant for it, you know? Like Judith, again, her attempts at getting out of this town end up reeling her back in. She's trying, when her recommendations get rescinded, right? She tries so desperately to get out of there, but these attempts are what end up screwing her over and bringing her back. But of course it doesn't matter, because in the end she ends up at going to LA with her dad anyway, which I'm not sure I'm a fan of. Like, I feel like she should have gotten her I feel like justice would have been her having to stay at the town that she hates so much, because a lot of this was, like, while it was Dylan's fault ultimately, a lot of it was Judith, because she kind of sucked. She is a crazy woman. I'm you know, it's like, again, no girl is worth that, okay? Don't go after crazy, kids, okay? Yeah, it's a bit of a pattern, I said, which I wanted to, I remember I said I should have written, I was thinking I was going to write more about the pattern of, like, people trying one way and going the other, pushing forward only to go backwards, you know? But I just wanted to talk about this show as fast as I could. 20 minutes in, that's freaking awesome, dude. They did the psycho eye to the peephole shot with Nolan North. That was cool. I really liked in the last episode at the very beginning, I really liked the shot of the band, Dylan in particular, with the lighting. It was the lighting I loved, like half red, half blue, just the dichotomy of good and evil, like what they're being torn between, like what's gonna happen to them, you know? Tracy Whitehead's maiden name was McCarthy, and I do wonder, I feel like that was probably a nod to McCarthyism, because that would make sense, right? With all the themes of paranoia, neighbors turning against neighbors, just calling each other out. The enemy is within us. It's coming from within, right? And like McCarthyism was people calling each other out. Like, are you must be one of them commies. Beware the Reds. They're invading this country, eating us from the inside out. They gotta, like, you know, it was a whole thing. So I feel like that was intentional, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe, I don't know. The church was called a Lady of Mercy Catholic Church. That's very funny, because there is no mercy going on from Tracy Whitehead, because she sucks, and all the townspeople fall for her crap, which I'm glad they did. Like, a part of me was a little worried that they were gonna do this cheesy, like, hey, they said, so they must be telling the truth, you're actually bad. But no, it was very, like, realistic that they kept listening to her, and I loved that about it. Like, it's not wishy-washy. Well, it's a little wishy-washy, but not in like a way that takes you out of it. It didn't take me out of it, at least. It was like the good cheesiness of the 80s, right? Rather than the crappy cheesiness. It's interesting how Tracy gains like a very cult-like following by the end of the show, right? Like, she's trying so hard to prevent this cult from forming, even though there is no cult. Her preventative measures to prevent the cult are what started the cult in the first place, right? Oh my goodness, that's another, yeah. But she gains her own cult pretty much by the end, which is really cool. The allusion to the Halifax slasher at the end is a neat parallel. Like, the one-off event was real, but everything after was only real and related because people believed it was real and related, which is kind of the whole premise of the show, right? Like, if you know what's happening there, you know what's happening here, and it's, yeah, it's a whole thing. I definitely talked about Bruce Campbell. I want to talk more about Bruce Campbell. He's everything a small-town cop should be. He's so cool. He's so nice. He's just so good and reasonable. It's so fun to see Bruce Campbell be so reasonable in anything. And I'm glad I did, you know? And it makes me want to watch more Bruce Campbell. I need more Bruce Campbell in my life. What a man. And I've actually gone over all my notes by now, but I want to keep talking because I really, really, really like this show. Bye-bye. My hand is sweaty. My gosh, I just switched hands on my microphone, and it is just caked in moisture. That's no good. It's like wrinkly. Whatever. I don't need to be telling you all this. You know what I would like to say? I did mention earlier how I thought it would have been interesting if they didn't do any of the actual supernatural aspects and just let you believe for a while that there were supernatural aspects, and then, you know, just like come to realize it's all just in their heads, it's all in your head, you know. And maybe it was. They are a little bit ambiguous about it, but at the same time, like, I don't see how it couldn't be supernatural with like the rash and the possession, because she was actually affected by that holy water. But again, maybe it could be psychological, I guess. But like, the visions of Satan could very well have been like just craziness talking, because Tracy is not well, never has been well. And they let her get in a position of power. So I'm interested to see where that goes. If we get, well, we already saw a little bit of where it goes, but I'm interested to see how it continues. If we get a season 2, I really, really, really hope we do. But again, while the supernatural aspects did work for me, I will say a lot of the CGI was pretty hokey, particularly for the devil himself when he did appear. It's, you know, it's not terrible, but like, it's very just PS3 game. No, PS4, early PS4 maybe. I don't know. No, it's not the best thing in the world. It's pretty hokey. And so I feel like it would have been better. One movie that I think of that did the devil really, really well and pretty scary was Prince of Darkness. You never see the devil. The closest thing you get is a hand, and that's like probably the creepiest part of the movie. And all you see is the hand, and you're left to imagine everything else. And it's really, really cool. So I feel like they should have taken a similar approach where you don't really see the devil. You see maybe shadows. You see, like, Longlegs too. You see maybe shadows. You see bits and pieces, but you never see the whole thing. And that would have been a lot scarier and a lot more effective, I think. But the hokey CGI, I guess, was good for, like, the sort of campy 80s aesthetic they were going for. But yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was neat. And I mean, yeah, I've talked about as much as I guess I can talk about this at the moment. I really enjoyed this show. It was a blast to watch. I'm so glad that I ran into that random Bruce Campbell article. And I came for Bruce Campbell, but I stayed for pretty much everything else, but also Bruce Campbell. And I'm really glad he didn't die at the end. I was worried they were going to kill him for a second, but they didn't, because he was a badass. That, like, turn and you know. But anyway, that's all I got for today. I'll probably just upload this. Like, I feel like I don't need to do much with it. Thank you very much for listening again to the Pulp Diction podcast. Oh my gosh, you know what? You know what I need to say before I move on? I need to stop on these episodes saying what episode I'm going to do next. Because every time I've done it, I've only done it twice, but still, every time I have done that, maybe 3 times, actually. Yeah. Every time I've done that, something or another has come up and screwed me over and screwed my plans over for the next episode. First, it was on the Deadpool episode where I'm like, oh, the next episode is going to be Deadpool and Wolverine with Emma Jo. That fell through because Emma Jo just didn't get the chance to see Deadpool and Wolverine until, like, just now, and she loved it. Maybe we will still do an episode on it, but it'll be very late. And I'd love to do a Deadpool and Wolverine episode. I'll have to have Tucker on for it too, but I would love to have Emma Jo too. Anyway. First it was Deadpool and Wolverine. That fell through. Then I was going to do Oh Brother, Where Art Thou with Lily. I think I talked about that on what was supposed to be the previous episode. But that fell through because my mom got sick, and I wasn't going to have her over while my mom was sick. Are you kidding me? No. So we didn't do that. That got delayed. The podcast got delayed a few weeks. It ended up being Fantastic Mr. Fox because we'd both just watched the movie. We weren't about to watch the movie again, even though it's a great movie. And I love Oh Brother, Where Art Thou. We'll still do an episode on it one day, maybe. But it is not this day. So that was the second one. And just now, in this previous episode, I mentioned that the next episode was going to be Halloween 1978, directed by John Carpenter, one of my favorite Halloween movies ever, one of my favorite horror movies ever, probably my favorite Halloween movie ever. And I was going to do that with somebody, and the plans for that fell through because I've been busy on the weekend. I was busy Monday evening after school. I was busy Tuesday evening after school, which is tonight. And well, by the time I would have been able to, I was busy to the point where by the time I would have been able to record with her, it would have been really late for her, and it's really late for normal human beings, but I do not exist on a normal plane. And Wednesday, she's got plans, so now it's kind of cooked. I do still want to do it, and I will still do it with this person, but not on Wednesday. And we can't do Halloween because everyone's got Halloween. Halloween's this Thursday, and I wanted it out by then, but it fell through. And it won't be this Thursday. It will not be on Halloween. We're not recording on Halloween. And maybe Friday. Maybe I'll record on Friday and get it on Saturday. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that's all I got. Thank you very much for listening to the Pulp Diction podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Gibson. Remember to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Hit the bell for notifications every time there's a new podcast out. Follow on Spotify. Rate 5 stars, please. And thank you. Um, and I've been slacking on Spotify. I still don't think I've uploaded the Batman episode to Spotify. It's fine. It's chill. Nobody listens on Spotify anyway. I got like 2 listens actually, so I gotta appeal to the 2, I guess. And thank you very much again. Bye!